Move back to the presidential address that we heard a few moments ago, leading a call for a national day of prayer as the country navigates its way through the COVID-19 pandemic. That day will be the 31st of May. There's also clarified provisions for religious organizations. Let's get some reaction now. We're joined by Sheikh Ihsaan Taliep, President of the United Ulama Council of South Africa. He also represents the Muslim Judicial Council. Good evening, Sheikh, and thank you very much for your time this evening. I would imagine that you are very pleased to hear the announcement that religious gatherings are now to be allowed.
Yeah, thank you very much. In actual fact, this is good news for us as South African citizens. I think right from the start of this pandemic, the faith communities have dutifully found it important that they play a supportive role to government in order to ensure that the ultimate objective of saving lives and, of course, to ensure that the purposes and the objectives of the lockdown measures and the regulations are being achieved. And, of course, we were all, as a nation, very focused on the whole idea of flattening the curve, etc. We've, of course, had many changes at the same time. And I think as the country is moving, to lower levels of restrictions, and we are looking at 1st of June to become a national sort of alert level of at level 3. And so it was, I suppose, something very natural, but also something which is going to be of good solace and consolation to many faith communities and millions of adherents of different faiths in our country. So yes, this is good news, but of course, we remain vigilant of the fact that paramount to all of this is preservation of lives, as well as the important, almost in a sense, countervailing consideration, which is also the preservation of people's livelihoods.
Absolutely. Let's move into how it's going to happen now. The President said that the National Command Council took on board a proposal from the faith-based communities. So I would imagine that you've all thought carefully about your rituals and how to conduct them safely. Does this mean, for example, that a wedding can now take place in a church or in a mosque under these new regulations, provided it's less than 50 people?
Yeah, look, of course, I think going forward also right now, there would have to be further defining and refining of precisely the nature of the kind of congregational gatherings that we are referring to. But I think first and foremost, as faith communities, we remain reminded of our responsibility here to ensure, as the President had alluded, that no one from among the faith communities, no one from the congregants, whether it's in mosques or churches or synagogues and temples, be exposed to unnecessary risk or to any risk. That is paramount. And so in this current conversation also, as well as the status quo ante, in other words, before the easing of regulations and the lowering of the lockdown levels, we have forever and always made it a primary requirement that the approach is led by the expertise of our health professionals. So the expertise of the health professionals is what has guided us right from the start. And right now as well, when we are considering, as the country is beginning to open up, the economy is starting to open up, and of course also other sectors are opening up, how we would then go into back into congregational prayers in a very, very graded manner. And that itself has been a process that had been led by the expertise of our health professionals.
Well, thank you very much for your time this evening. That was a sheikh from the United Ulama Council of South Africa, also representing the Muslim Judicial Council this evening. That was Sheikh Ihsaan Taliep. More on this in a moment. Stay with us.